This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Roll call, Stephen.
Here.
Lieutenant Brett.
I'm here.
Diane.
I'm here, thank you.
Jay.
Here.
Steve.
Here.
Lisa.
Here.
Sherry. Sherry Smith. And Sergeant Joseph.
Here.
All right, great. Now we'll continue with the review of the last meeting minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. The last meeting was held on September 8th. The August 11th meeting minutes were reviewed and approved. Gary Didio presented an IV&V update for Phase 2. There was a brief stakeholder outreach update presented by Jessica Espinoza, Coral Griggs, and Laura Freeman, and Kathy Thomas. Phase 2 project updates began on page 2 with an update on the IFTA IRP project, Florida Smart ID, and the ECM project. There was no communications update at the meeting, and there were no questions or concerns from members present. And at the top of page 3, you can see the items that are distributed in the meeting packet prior to the meeting.
Any questions, comments, or corrections?
Move to approve.
Thanks, Lisa. Is there a second? Not everybody at once.
I'll second. Jay.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approved. I'm sorry. All right, we'll mark these as approved. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Kristen. Rachel. IV&V update.
Gary, I'm going to go through the August month report. You guys are now seeing it a month and a half late. We're actually getting ready to publish the September mark later on today, the end of the day. But the basic information has not changed. The project, from an IV&V perspective, the project is still green. All the fastest that we've evaluated at this point in time are green. See the major information there. As of August, I did see an improvement in the project schedule. Since August, we've seen it. The project schedule has not improved. So we'll see that shortly once the September is published. Next slide, please. Keep going. One thing I will point out, 6 gray areas on the technology side of the tube. We've actually evaluated 4 of those tech areas. We published in the September, and those areas are T4 through T7, data management, security controls, BDR, and testing information, and all 4 of the areas are now going to be green. So any issue or risk with those particular areas. Slide. As you can see, the trending, the 4-week move average is going for the date, which means that it's improving. In other words, it's falling less far behind schedule. However, in the month of September, we saw that increasing, which means that the project is continuing to fall behind schedule. Next slide. And then is the budget, and I know Jess is going to go into the budget. This is where we stand on how we're tracking everything. anybody has any questions, I will have them. If not, I'll go over to you, Terry.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
No questions for Gary? All right, thank you, Gary. Stakeholder outreach. Kristen, I'm sorry, did we have anything for stakeholder outreach? I don't believe so.
I don't believe so as well.
All right, financial review. Janice.
Good afternoon. These financials are as of the end of September. So phase one, officially from a financial perspective, we are done with LBR requests. Our last request was the 2019-2020 fiscal year, which ended in June, which was 2.3, which was expended. So our total for phase one LBR request was 37.3 million. On the actual side, 32.6 of those funds of 37, 88% of that was contracted services. A little bit less, or 0.17%, was OCO. IV&V services ended up being 5% of the total budget, and our expenses were 7% of the total. Then for phase two, right now our LBR requests are totaling 53.8 million. We've been approved through the 2020-2021 fiscal year, and the out years through 2024, those are pending. So our phase two total budget looks like a little bit less on the contracted services. We're at 77%. OCO is still about the same. IV&V is 4%, and expenses are at 19%. And then it's also broken out by month. You can see in July, we really didn't have any expenditures because we were still finishing out last fiscal year. August and September, we pick up on contracted services. Our budget versus actuals, fiscal year to date is 9.8. Month to date for September, the budget was 1.3 and our actuals were 1.3, so we had a 0% variance with 8.5 million in remaining funds. So really, that's about it on the budget. If anybody has any questions.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Janice. I do want to circle back to the stakeholder outreach. There's one thing that I did forget, and I believe it was last week. I'm sorry, the weeks are running together. There was a IFTA IRP focus group. The team had been working with Jay's team to put together a group of folks to kind of give them a preview of what we're planning with the new cost package that we purchased. That went well and was attended well, I thought, as well. Jay, I know you're a board member, but this was also in your area. Do you have any additional comments about the focus group meeting?
Not really, Terrence. I just echo what you said. You know, I thought everybody, your team, the Celtic team, everybody did a great job presenting it and was well received.
All right, thank you. Any questions about the focus group meeting? All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, project updates. Nathan?
Thanks, Terrence. Good afternoon, everyone. We have a stoplight report for milestone B. Just to call your recollection, the only team that is still working on milestone B functionality is the title and registration issuance team. They're finishing out the original title issuance transaction, which was part of milestone B. So they're completed their development and are finishing up the testing with a forecast to be complete by the end of this month with testing, and then moving on into milestone C functionality. So if we can look at milestone C, the title and registration issuance team, team A, their milestone C functionality is the original regular registration transaction. So they have started on the requirement, refinement, and development of that functionality. So as soon as the testing is complete for the original title, they'll focus on the testing for the original registration. So work continues on that. For team B, the MV Globals team, they're continuing to work on their functionality related to administrative functions, office settings, admin settings, inventory, and cashiering to support all the issuance transactions that will be done in the Orion application. The Portal Fleet team is still working on their Milestone C functionality, which is the motor vehicle records request functionality. They've finished the requirement refinement for everything in this milestone and are working on completing the development and testing. I will mention that since we put this picture together last week, Team B has finished the refinement of all remaining stories for Milestone C, so they're good with that. And as I said, continuing on with the development and testing. So I think we have another slide for IFTA IRP that Scott can speak to.
Thank you, Nathan. How's the sound? We good?
Yeah, we can hear you. Great, thanks.
Thank you. Everyone, yes, IFTA IRP, we've actually looking at the key dates. Terrence, thank you for the signature earlier today on deliverable 5 for the security plan. That was approved, and so we'll route that for Celtic. So as of today, all of our deliverables that we have kind of responsible for, they are complete. So thank you, everyone. Important activities, you'll notice that we've been tracking or communicating the integration of the program and project schedules for not only from phase 2, but IFTAs. And we'll talk about the what's yellow and keeping us back or restricting us from being green. But we targeted, if you remember, July, we're aggressively targeting that, even though SEU members had a lot of work and they still have a lot of work on their shoulders. We are trying to get their expectations reviewed by Celtic and any open questions regarding UAT, because Celtic has a set expectation for user acceptance testing. We want to make sure our system evaluation unit also aligns with that. So we're trying to get that merged in by the end of this week. We should have some progress with that. In addition to that schedule, we'll talk about it over there on the scope and schedule, but the tech provisions, this is very critical. We brought in a whole bunch of developers at the front end to do the data mapping analysis, and we did well from the first round. The second group is our project management, business analysts, people to be able to get into our shared repository of our documentation and kind of update documents in more real time rather than sending them via email. And we're looking at complete that second round by October 15th. Nothing indicates that they will not be able to be onboarded unless they didn't complete their CGIS and signing of the non-disclosure agreement. So we're tracking that. Key dependencies, one of the components that during those JAD sessions, we were delivered a project schedule, initial schedule from Celtic. They didn't have a lot of detail from the department side in that schedule, and we're working with them, and they're really good working with us. But we wanted to make sure that even though we're running through those JAD sessions to align with their requirements from the COT side, we're also doing the interface design development expectations, because that will actually impact us being successful. So we're doing that, shifting our JAD sessions this week and through October to address that so we can catch up where we were left being late on IFTA. The business actions, we have started with probably about 60 open action items just in the business alone. Last time we reported, we're down to 38 out of 225. Kudos to the business. A lot of those items that are still open is due to the expectations between the interface, the technical side, and then how it's going to be presented to the user. So my hat's off to the business, but we're still trending behind. And until we get those resolved, IFTA is just trending that we're behind. The COTS configuration, they came in, they understand their application, so it's indicating as green. The Orion integration and the scope schedule, as we mentioned earlier, we're trying to marry our requirements from the department, the interface, who's going to be the master data record, so to speak, all of that, and then plan the interfaces accordingly. And so that's why we're showing yellow. In the next couple weeks, we should have some direction for sign off for the design of the interfaces, which then will allow us to plan the development. So that's where we stand. I know I went too quick, but if there's any questions, I'm open to take them now. If not, Nathan, back to you.
Okay, thanks. Next up, we have an update on Florida Smart ID. Joe, can you give a quick update on this?
Sure. So for Florida Smart ID, we have all the deliverables approved at this point, except for our production readiness demonstration, which is the start of our pilot to the 1st of December. And we're continuing to move forward with our development activities with Thales. We met with them multiple times on security and integration. We're actually in the process today of getting the VPN tunnel set up between our environment and their AWS environment. That's all in preparation for them exposing their interface to us starting tomorrow. And we're on target to have our part of the interface built and exposed to them sometime next week. So the teams continue to move forward on the development front. From a branding perspective, we finally got our brand down, color scheme down, and all that worked out. So a team made great progress with that. We've shared that with Talos as well, because that's important for the store setup as well as the way the app will look on the phone. So they have all that information now. We're continuing to move forward with our user guide and FAQ. What we're trying to do is target that user guide and FAQ for the pilot folks, so that they're aware of how they'll be able to download the app and contact the department if there's any issues, et cetera. So that's kind of the focus of those activities. We're meeting this week, in fact, today, later today, talk to Talos about maintenance and support moving forward. We also have meetings set up with them to talk about train the trainer and to continue discussions as well on our performance testing and load testing. We'll be doing that later this week as well. So continue to move forward on all fronts. The communication team has done a great job of identifying participants in the pilot. So they've been working with various retailers, reaching out to them and holding meetings to get them on board as well. From a risk and issue perspective, we're continuing to monitor what our scope looks like, both from the fact that we've deferred the remote enrollment option and are using virtual office for the initial enrollment, as well as the number of stories we need to get through testing in that 10-day UAT period. We're also, like I said, monitoring our ability to complete our development to meet Talos' schedule. We did add a new issue this week. This issue is related to Talos' ability to complete the iOS verifier development. They won't have that completed by the 1st of December, but should have it completed by the 14th of December when we go beyond our internal pilot and expand the pilot to a wider audience. We'll still be able to use the verifier, just we'll be using an Android device instead of an iOS device. Any questions on Florida Smart ID? Thank you. Back to you, Nathan.
Okay, thanks. We also have a quick update on enterprise content management. So this effort under the umbrella of phase 2 is continuing on as well, working with the integration vendor to set up the software and to work through the document classification and taxonomies for the initial setup and the document conversion for the initial phase for this. So that's really the only updates we have for this. Are there any questions for phase 2 before I turn it back over to Terrence? Okay, Terrence.
Okay, do we have and thanks Nathan, and thanks everyone else who gave their updates. Now I believe we have communications update. Core, do you have anything today?
No, sir.
All right. Any questions, general questions for phase 2? Any of the team members? Anyone have any questions? All right. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your participation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.